Shabbat Shalom. In this week's Torah portion, we talk about the different plagues that God brings upon the Egyptians. And among those plagues, we have one particular plague that I would like to talk about today, and that is the plague of hail. So the story is that God, through Moses, warns Pharaoh that he's going to bring this terrible plague upon the Egyptians called the plague of hail. There's going to be huge fireballs with ice going to come down upon the Egyptians. And of course, as this starts happening, Pharaoh freaks out and he calls Moses and says, Moses, of course, I'm going to let the Jewish people go. Just stop this crazy plague from happening. And the story is, as Moses reaches out to God and says, God, please stop this plague from happening and afflicting the Egyptian people. The minute he says that it should stop, it says the plague stops instantaneously. Now, here's the interesting thing. The Torah tells us a very, very important detail when it comes to this plague. And it says, these are the words, it says, Lo nitach arza, that the hail, the matar, lo nitach arza, it did not reach the ground. Now, just practically speaking, means to say, if you look outside the window and it says that it's raining outside or it's hailing outside, and it says suddenly it stops, what happens with the hail that's coming down from the sky? Today's day and age, you look outside the window and it's hailing. What happens to the hail that's hailing? It comes down to the ground and the hail storm stops. But during this plague, something fascinating happened, a miracle happened. The hail that was falling didn't reach the ground. So here's the question that we all have to ask. Okay, that's a great miracle that occurred. But what happened to the hail that was, a few meters off the ground? What happened to that? Did it stay hanging in the air? What happened to it? So this is an interesting question. And over here, Rashi, the famous commentator, the great commentator, brings down two different opinions from the Medrash. One opinion is that actually it stayed hanging in the air. It did not reach the ground. Literally, it was just in the air until the next rain came around, and that's when it was accumulated. It became part of the next rain, and then it came down to the ground. The other opinion is that while it did not reach the ground, it just disintegrated into the air and became, just like air, and that's how it ended up drying out and just disappeared. Now here, we're talking about miracles happening. I understand it's miracles within miracles and so on and so forth, but the question is, obviously on a deeper level, why did God have to perform these kind of miracles? What's really going on? And this is something that, we all like to understand, not just that God performed the miracle, but why did he perform these kind of miracles? So I'd like to share with you a little insight. Number one is it says that once God gives us something, he doesn't take it back, whether it's a blessing or perhaps even a punishment. So if God gave this hailstorm called this, punishment, this plague, he's not going to take it back up to heaven. He's not going to bring it back into the skies. So he let it forth, he can't take it back. But on the other hand, once God says the storm should stop, this plague is going to stop, he can't have it continue down to the ground. It has to come to an end. And therefore, it can't reach the ground. So we're stuck sort of in this limbo situation. What do you do with this? Also, why did it stop? Why did Moses ask God to stop? And the answer is because Pharaoh said, I'm going to let the Jewish people go. Which means to say that Pharaoh came to recognize his mistakes. Meaning to say that he did, in the Hebrew term, he did teshuvah. He repented for the mistake that he was making of holding the Jewish people back and not letting them leave Egypt and go serve God in the desert. So if that's the case, if somebody does teshuvah, somebody repents, somebody changes their ways, what do? We give them another chance. We don't continuously punish them. So if the Egyptians are changing their ways, Pharaoh and the Egyptian people are going to change their ways, we don't want to continue the punishment. We have to stop the punishment right then and there and not allow the hill to continue to fall. So now the question is, why do we have two opinions on how this hail stopped to fall? Whether it remained standing in the air or whether it disappeared. And here we have a fascinating lesson for us Jewish people. You see, when we do repentance, when we do teshuvah, when we return to God, there's two ways how we could do it. We could do it out of love to God, and we could do it out of fear. If we return to God out of fear, means to say that we're doing it because we want to come closer, not because we love God per se, but as much as we're afraid of the punishment. Just like the Egyptians. Did they come closer to allowing the Jewish people to leave Egypt because they didn't want to get punished anymore? Or did they come around to understand that the Jews actually deserve to leave Egypt? And this is a very important question. If it was because they were afraid of the punishment, Then you say, well, let's let the hail hang in the ear. Perhaps the punishment might still continue. We're not going to give it to them now because they said we're going to let the Jewish people go. But maybe soon it will continue. Let's see what happens. So that's called teshuvah miyira, repentance out of fear. Now there's no punishment, but maybe soon there will be. However, if there's teshuvah, repentance out of love, because we understand that we really want to come close to God, or in the case of Pharaoh and the Egyptians, because they understand the Jews really deserve to serve God, that's a different story. Then we get rid of it. No more punishment. It's out the window. We let that hail disappear for good, never to be seen again. It's as if we uproot it. The whole existence is gone for good, never to be seen again. And this is a whole different ballgame. See, this is the point. When God might punish us, or a parent might punish a child, or somebody might, for whatever reason it should be, something happens to somebody and they get punished by society, whatever it is. But when they change their ways and they realize, I regret what I've done, there's two ways that they get punished. Or we get rid of the punishment. If it's just because they fear of a greater punishment, then we linger that punishment on the side. We put it on the shelf. We shelf it for a little while to see what happens. But if they really mean it, they're doing it out of love, then we erase their record off the books. It's totally forgotten because we know that they did it out of love. I think this is an important lesson for us in life when we know that we could forgive somebody else for the things that they have done. Shabbat Shalom. And this week we start a new month, a month of Shvat. We should have a good beginning and a blessed month and a happy Rosh Chodesh. Shabbat.